A very good morning to all of you. Actually, this paper is written jointly with my supervisor, Professor Goti Chakraborty, but eventually for some institutional work, he failed to turn up, and I have to present that. So, as the title suggests, community land and customary rights. So, the point of my presentation will be the how the community land and the concept of customary rights is changing from pre-colonial period to the present period, and how the community land has been subjected to the private ownership or individual ownership. Sorry. So we see that there is some epistemological difference between the concept of land in the community, tribal community, and the market economy. Community in traditional community or the tribal community, land has been conceptualized as that there has been no private ownership of land, as there is some devolution of power, devolution of land from community to the individual, but the individual ownership is always subsumed within the community rights. And in market economy, market sees land as a production, as a space for production, and it has some transaction value. In traditional culture, it doesn't have any transaction value. So, as I have discussed, what is the difference between private community land and private land? Here, the if we differentiate between traditional version of community land and modernist version of traditional land, there is some differentiation that in traditional society, customary right is customarily acquired and it is legally acquired. Here in the traditional society, there is community as a legal owner, but in modern society, community is not a legal owner. Individual is a legal owner. One thing I might say, because the rest of the things already has been discussed by the earlier speakers, that in traditional society there is a place value, and in modern society there is space value. Let's first take the example of Chandni Chowk. Why Chandni Chowk is important to us? Because Chandni Chowk has this unique history, and it has its only unique essence. If let's suppose there is two Chandni Chowks in Delhi, so the two Chandni Chowks will not have the uniqueness left. That is happening in the northeast also. The tribal areas has the unique history and they have the customary rights. But with the advent of capital, with the advent of state and its patronage, the traditional society is dismantling. So the uniqueness of the place value is not there now. In pre-colonial period, what happened? There were some clans and kinship relationship, and with the economy was subsistence level. In colonial period, that changed because state sees at a space for production, and colonial period, the Britishers thought about that. If we need surplus value, surplus production, we need individual ownership or permanent ownership, and permanent ownership, by that, they just patronize some elites of the tribal communities in order to get the customary laws interpreted in their favor. Eventually, what happened? The Britishers, to assert some surplus value, they introduced plantation in the hills, and by that, and first attempt was made in the Khasi Hills, because in 1853 David Scott has introduced the potato cultivation in the Meghalaya. So with the advent of that plantations, there was some power structure change in the hills vis-a-vis in the plains, because power is always associated with the land. The tribal elites has the land, the concentration of land in their hand. They eventually become the powerful elite. The power in the post-colonial scenario, what happened? The post-colonial state is also doing the same thing. It not it not exactly identical, but the similar things. What what did the post-colonial state did? They said that shifting cultivation is the obsolete thing, and it should be replaced by plantations or wet paddy cultivation. They introduced the wet paddy cultivation there, and what happened? That the tribal there in the hills, they are not accustomed to such paddy cultivation. So there was labor migration from the outsiders, from the neighboring periods, neighboring regions. So that's why the labor who were migrating from the neighboring period eventually became the de jure owner, because they had the tenureship, they had the de facto tenureship. So they became the de jure owner of that land, and that is because of that the tribal people there is claiming that our homeland is in danger, so they are in regular conflict with the outsiders. And the Khasi Autonomous District Council, the customary rights, is also providing an alibi for the private ownership. We should not criticize it because it was framed long before. The customary right is saying that if if some individual has, or individual, or you have to, if you want to maintain your ownership, then you have to improve the land continuously. It means whoever has the power to maintain, or the capital to maintain the land, he will eventually become the owner, de jure owner. That is the thing is happening in Meghalaya. Re-rate is the community land, Re-Kinti is the private land. Eventually, it happening that the elites they are discouraging the cadastral survey, because they are saying, they are manipulating the fact to the people that if we do that cadastral survey, that it will eventually take away our land. So they are discouraging the cadastral survey. And if we can see that in post-colonial scenario, Borderley Committee has recommended the incorporation of sixth schedule, then the legislation of land. But what happened? State court ruled in different directions. In one case, court ruled that the DCs, the district council, has the right to legislate, and in another case, it is saying that the district council doesn't have a right to legislate. In the both the cases, Taimakanto case, it is saying that it cannot legislate, and it says in Sunil Dev case that it can legislate. Even Justice Hansaria also the saying the same thing in incorporating another, because I'm running short of time, that's why I can't say in the detail. So if I conclude that shifting cultivation and community ownership of land during the pre-colonial period got transformed into sedentary cultivation into encouraging private ownership in subsequent phases. That I already have shown. And colonial period, we have seen the visibility of elites with state patronage, and eventually they interpreted the law in their favor. In post-colonial and recently I have talked about the constitutionalism and autonomous district council, and even the reservation of seats in the legislative assemblies and the parliament did not do that much thing which was supposed to. And the different viewpoints of the court regarding legislation, one says that it can legislate, it can't legislate. In short, if we say that community land and the relation attached with it have been subjected to state might and the interpretation of the elites of the tribes. And as this is the era of globalization, and the fight is between the communities and the state or the capital. And in the era of globalization, the state is backing the international capital as well. So in this scenario, will the people of the Northeast will remain as an island with their customary rights to fight with the international capital with the state patronage? I'm leaving this question to the House, and thank you.
Thank you very much, Gorkiji. Thank you. Just to one of the highlights.